All right, welcome everyone. Today's video is going to cover three, I'd say, of the most commonly talked about bass BFS rods. It's going to be the Phenix Classic BFS, which I recently did a review on. This is the Cashion Icon BFS, and then to round it out is going to be the Dobyns Sierra series. I did some content on all these rods, but I'm going to talk individually about sensitivity, power, taper, and my uses that I find where these rods shine and also where they kind of struggle. So if you're in the market for a BFS bass rod, I highly suggest watching this video and also comment down below what tackle you're using for bass. All right, so starting off, most recently content I did was on the Phenix Classic BFS. This is the 7'1" light version. There's a one or two shorter versions as well if you're into that. But this rod I found was the most sensitive of the three rods. It was noticeable. It wasn't like night and day, like, you know, but it was definitely noticeable over the Dobyns in the other one. But where this rod lacks is power compared to the other two. I really like this rod for bluegill, say in the 8 to 11 inch range. It feels actually pretty ideal. I would take this, I would like deliberately use this rod for panfish. Jumping in, like say your lake dwelling trout, if you have like rainbow trout or splake or anything in lakes, even walleye feel nice on this rod too. I'd look into this rod. I would grab it just for that. But the taper, it has a solid tip to it, so you are going to have that like lighter feeling tip, and it transitions very smoothly into the midsection and even into the butt. So if you're working with this rod, it does lend to be more of like a smaller bait single hook application, but you can use smaller jerk baits with this rod, and also like some smaller square bills or like, you know, small flat side crankbaits, because that taper does give a lot like a crankbait once you're hooked up. Cosmetically, this is my favorite rod, and the reel seat's the most comfortable too with that small trigger on there. And this rod, this comes in at $200, and the other two come in like a little bit under, a little bit over. So this is the middle priced. So if you're going to be more on that finesse side for bass fishing, I would definitely check that one out. Or especially for panfish and trout and such, that would be my go-to rod. Jumping next is going to be the Dobyns Sierra series. I did a review on the 700 and the 701. The only difference being the 700 has the solid tip, just like the Phenix, and the 701 is a normal tubular tip. So this rod I feel is almost middle of the road all the way around. It's middle of the road for power. It's a little more powerful than the Phenix, and sensitivity is not too far behind it. It is noticeable, but I don't feel that I missed any fish with this that I would have had with the Phenix. The grip is a little bit bigger, so if you have bigger hands or you don't like smaller grips, that Phenix is a small grip, and the Cashion and this Dobyns have like a normal size grip. The Phenix has a very like JDM, like smaller grip feel to it. The power, I use this around docks. The Phenix, I did not like that around docks for bass. Even when I was, say, casting for panfish, I would hook into like that random bass. I felt like I had control, but not too much. Especially, I was even skipping some bass plastics under docks with it. It feels nice to load and flick it out there, but getting that fish out of the dock, it was a struggle almost every time. The Dobyns a little bit better in that regard. If you're going to be doing your, say, finesse bass fishing, you know, pond hopping, I've taken a lot of like lake dwelling trout. I've taken walleye with it. It does feel nice for a walleye rod, especially if you're throwing like, you know, 1/8 ounce, you know, grub style or like smaller swim baits. Feels really nice for that. And this is priced at $189.99, and it does have a pretty decent warranty. I'm not going to talk about all the warranties. I'll list them down below because that is a factor for some people. And lastly, it's the Cashion Icon BFS. This is the 7-foot light version. I have the 610 medium light. It was, if you're going to fish around docks, or like if you want serious finesse bass fishing, you know, especially if you're on cover, I highly suggest that rod. It's been the best one I've used so far. This Cashion though, the 7-foot light, it's designed as a moving bait rod, so smaller crankbaits, smaller jerk baits, stuff like that, even some small tiny little buzz baits. This rod definitely has the most backbone compared to these two. and it has a tubular tip, but it has a pretty smooth taper going all the way down, with a noticeable butt section to it too. Like right here, I have like a small Z-Man Ned rig on here. I can feel it, but it's definitely the least sensitive of these three rods. And it doesn't matter because, oh, this is a crankbait rod. It's the same exact carbon and everything of the medium light rod, which I found to be actually pretty sensitive. It does have a bigger grip, and it's a carbon fiber grips too, so that's something if you like that. I feel that this grip is my favorite out of them, but the reel seat is definitely the best for me on the Phenix. All right, so to kind of round it out, I know it's a kind of a quick video, but I did want to just consolidate this information because I've been answering these questions quite a bit. So the Phenix, the least powerful, the most sensitive, and it is very nice for big bluegill, for your lake dwelling trout. You can do some walleye with it. And also if you know you're catching a lot of smaller bass, or if you're bass fishing in open water, it feels just fine no matter the size fish. Dobyns, a little bit kind of in between all the rods, middle of the road pretty much all the way across. This would be my take for like finesse bass fishing for like with single hook applications if I'm going to use one of these three rods. But I'd jump to the 701 model for that. The 700, you're not really getting much benefit with that solid tip in my hands. And then the Cashion, it just feels more like a substantial bass rod. It does, like I said, it's the least sensitive. It does the best, I think, with like this style Ned rig. The Dobyns feels pretty good with it, but this, I feel that the backbone is a little bit better on this rod. But I would personally just jump to the medium light instead of getting this if I'm going to be using a lot of these Ned rigs, especially if I'm going to be around cover. So if you want to see more information, make sure you subscribe, and also comment down below what future BFS content that you want to see. Thanks for watching.